announcement that there will be yet another reboot of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, it got me thinking about the previous itinerations of the franchise. More to the point, what is the point? If there's been so many, does this mean that each incarnation has been successful? Or does it mean that each incarnation has been a failure? But, based upon the studios trying to replicate lightning in a bottle, they're just determined to keep trying different ones based upon the reputation of the first film. Taking all this into account, I return to the franchise and feel that, for reasons I will expand on, the 2003 Marcus Nispel remake of the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre is the best attempt yet at catching the essence of the original. Now, I'm not saying that this is a better film than the original. It isn't. The 1973 Texas Chainsaw remains a grubby, nihilistic and genuine classic, but that doesn't mean we can't enjoy another attempt before writing it off as a remake that shouldn't exist. So let's get into it. Let's get into the meat and bone, and spoilers for both the 1973 and the 2003 version, ahoy. Texas Chainsaw exists on a continuum with many great films which have been remade and come into the same issues. I shall cover the Nightmare on Elm Street remake in another video, and it encounters the same problems. Judo interference, expectation, budget, trying to one-up the previous idea, which was already perfect. A better example, although it's a film that has not yet been remade, and please don't, is Jaws. Jaws was a film plagued by production problems, issues that required the cast to go through hell, and constraints which caused creative decisions to change. While Spielberg had it rough with a lengthy shoot and a mechanical shark that refused to work, Texas Chainsaw also had a grueling filming schedule. The temperatures were unbearable, the meat on the set rotted, cast could only tolerate filming for short periods of time, and there were even injuries caused. Many crew members reported problems. Gunnar Hansen almost chopped his leg off with a chainsaw when he slipped running with it. Paul Pertain hurt himself rolling down a hill. Edwin Neal had his face hurt by asphalt, and flesh-eating mosquitoes ravaged the set. Marilyn Burns suffered worse, even being hit for real by the fake hammer which was used to pound her head relentlessly. By the end of the shoot, which had burned through its tiny budget, the cast were exhausted and Tobe Hooper's vision was rapidly diminishing. However, much like Jaws, far from being its downfall, the troubled production is part of the reason the film was so successful. Creative decisions, authentic exasperation from the cast, and a real look of guerrilla filmmaking pervade the entire movie. We now live in an era where any remake needs names, be it studio or cast, and this means that the original problems of surviving a hellish set with very little money are gone when it comes to big tentpole remakes. The studio want to cash in on the original, so it's remade in the antithesis of how the original was conceived. Taking all this into account, the 2003 version had massive problems right from the get-go. Texas Chainsaw, like the aforementioned Jaws and Elm Street, have a backlash right from the start if there's any talk of a remake, and rightly so. Fans will write off the remake before it's even been seen. Hollywood is accused of being lazy, and the expectation for another dumpster fire is set by the people who feel there is no need to remake or don't want to see contemporary takes on their beloved classics. So, in 2003, Marcus Nispel changed the characters, tweaked the story, and tried to make something that was its own creation and also a homage to the original. Gone was the disabled Franklin, in comes the nerdy and pot-obsessed Morgan. Jessica Biel takes the lead, but she's called Erin, not Sally, and she's with a boyfriend called Kemper. They also don't pick up a deranged male hitchhiker, they find a female straggler and willingly take her in to rescue her. After nearly hitting Lauren German's straggler, they take her on board their van and realise something is wrong. Nispel wisely uses show don't tell, leaving us to see her dehydrated lips, the extensive blood around the inner thighs, and disorientation as we wonder what has happened as she keeps mumbling, "He's a bad man." Interestingly, the bad man we assume is Leatherface. However, Ali Ermey is far more sadistic as we find out, and when he reacquaints himself with this dead girl's body, his infatuation is sexual to say the least. At the point where she's been driven back towards the Crawford mill that she's escaped, the girl retrieves a gun from between her legs and shoots herself. This is our first crucial plot motivation, and it creates conflict amongst the characters and sets them on the course to meet Leatherface and family. Conflict is a crucial part in story. Without conflict, there's no decision, there's no consequence, there's no progression. So here we decide really what our characters are made of. The majority of the group feel they should leave her behind. This also introduces the running theme which will now follow throughout the film: human development from moralistic to animalistic, and the consequence of benevolence and morals compared to the completely atavistic and misanthropic. After her suicide, the gang debate leaving the body as roadkill. The moral compass here is Erin, who feels that this is wrong and we're treating her like a piece of trash. Eventually, as the group lean towards leaving her behind, Kemper sides with his girlfriend, who we later find out he's going to propose to, and they head off to the Crawford mill to call the sheriff. The decision to be decent, follow the humane beliefs and do the right thing immediately places them in danger. Had they been more misanthropic, they leave her behind, go to the concert and live. Arriving in the shop for help, the shopkeeper is rude. The food is spoiled and she is obtuse to the group. This is the central theme from the family. The cannibals are cut off from the developing world, isolated by the death knell of progress, and literally forced to eat people because the slaughterhouse is now an arid desert. Even the pig's head in the delicatessen is rotten, a metaphor for the dearth of produce, and a signal these people aren't eating livestock anymore, have been cut off from the outside world, and are genuinely rotting away. The gang are unwelcome here. They bring condescension over the collapse of this family unit and fear of the outside world. Once they call the sheriff, things really go wrong. Arlie Ermy starts feeling the dead body, as mentioned before. He's very rude to the group, before wrapping the body in cling film and dumping her in the trunk of his car. Erin, meanwhile, is with Kemper at a house. This causes the second decision of benevolence, as Erin returns and they agree to search for Kemper. This decision is less debated, although apprehension is shown from Pepper, and Andy and Erin set off to find him. The choice Andy makes is that he cannot leave his friend and must do the right thing. This will later cost him his life. Eventually, the film ends its most disappointing period, and as we sit with the family who are ironing, demanding supper, it just doesn't quite work. In the scene in the original at dinner, Marilyn Burns suffered torture and was literally bled into a bucket as she was hit repeatedly over the head with a hammer. Here, the tension isn't there, and the dinner table scene is sacrificed for Erin to discover Andy in the basement and commenced her journey from philanthropy to misanthropy, which is the running theme here. Erin mercy kills Andy and rescues the injured Morgan. Erin and Morgan run from Leatherface and hide, but it's to no avail. Just as Leatherface is about to kill Erin, Morgan redeems his cowardly decision early to leave her body behind and charges out and saves Erin. But he ends up being sawed in half. He's gutted like livestock, a metaphor then later reinforced when Erin, in the slaughterhouse herself, is literally trapped in a conveyor belt of carcasses, showing that she's the meat in a meat market. Now Erin has lost everything, and the only way to survive and prevail is to fight back. It is here that her final journey commences. All morals, all decency is left behind as she goes cleaver to chainsaw in a duel with Leatherface, which ends up costing the chainsaw-wielding maniac his arm. The scene where Sally escapes in the original and Leatherface injures his leg is changed significantly, and, inside their own slaughterhouse, Erin butchers him before leaving him to scream in his own blood like a dying swine. She's not running anymore. She's fighting back. A crucial decision reached, the conflict and everything she has lost causing a resolution for her. Finally, Erin escapes and hitchhikes with a trucker, but as we return to significance of the girl who killed herself in Kemper's van at the start, Erin screams the same line, "You're going the wrong way." And we end up back in the predicament she has just escaped from. The suspense here works as the sheriff comes out and stalks the cab of the truck. Erin has fled and is now on the run again. In the rain, drenched, cold, tired, she returns to the original shop and sees that there's a baby that she's encountered earlier. This baby has clearly been kidnapped. Just like when she outsmarted Leatherface, she succeeds in escaping with the baby, but as her natural motherhood comes to the forefront, she lets out a final guttural scream as she ploughs the police car into the sheriff. Then, to make sure, the previously gentle Erin reverses over him before letting out an almighty scream and runs over him a third time. Her final megalomaniacal release shows her full moralistic decompensation. She has gone from human to animal. Gunnar Hansen, the original Leatherface, was dismissive of the film, stating it was a movie about Jessica Biel's boobs, and while her objectification is there, it's necessary because she's a sexually vulnerable girl in front of a family of animals. More to the point, Erin starts as the perfect girlfriend and most gentle of the group. By the end, drenched in rain and blood and now mentally destroyed by her ordeal, the camera work is no longer focused on her body and instead moves to her expressions, her eyes and her mouth as she screams and yells and turns the tables on the family. The film was a moderate success, even producing a sequel, prequel, where Jordana Brewster and Diora Baird took on the family as we learn how Leatherface came to be and the family grew to what they were. However, it missed the mark wildly and was derailed by critics, ignored by audiences, and despite Nispel's 2003 version scoring 38 on IMDb Metacritic, I feel it remains the best effort of remaking the original. There's no point carbon copying scenes from the original, so Nispel changed things and paid homage whilst trying to add his own take. Audiences will always be sceptical of remakes, and, while some are embraced, it's a hard job trying to capture the lightning in a bottle of the first one. Texas Chainsaw Massacre is arguably more enjoyable than the Platinum Dunes signature remakes of Elm Street and Friday the 13th. They were resented by critics and fans alike. There's a lot more reason for that, which we will cover in a later video. Anyway, despite its faults and despite the natural proclivity to write off remakes, I think this has robbed the film of some of the praise it deserves. But what do you think? Is the 2003 the best attempt? Or do you think there's a one better? Should we be excited for another one, or should we really just let it go now and stop Texas Chainsaw Massacre sequels, remakes, reboots, and everything else? Leave a comment, and I'll catch you later.